Good evening, this is TVS Nightline. We begin with this story. The 2025 Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia SPM examination results hit a record high with a national grade average GPK index of 4.42 points compared to 4.49 points in 2024. Education Director General Dr. Muhammad Azam Ahmad says more than 366,000 candidates, or 94%, were eligible to be awarded the SPM certificate in 2025 compared to 356,000 candidates in 2024.
According to him, the figure shows an increase of 10,502 candidates, or 0.28%. He says the analysis of the 2025 SPM examination results showed encouraging achievements of candidates, thus reflecting the effectiveness of the Education Ministry's continuous efforts in providing access to inclusive and quality education in supporting the aspirations of Madani Malaysia. Meanwhile, Education Minister Fadlina Sidek said the first cohort of students who sat for SPM without going through Ujian Pencapaian Sekolah Rendah UPSR and Pentaksiran Tingkatan 3 PT3 examinations proved their resilience when they recorded impressive achievements in SPM last year. She adds that the generation, which often drew attention for not going through the centralized examination system at the early stage, had successfully overcome various challenges, including learning disruptions during the COVID-19 pandemic. The success, she says, also reflected the effectiveness of the interventions and continuous support implemented by the Education Ministry and schools.
Global markets, energy supply, and diplomatic efforts are all under pressure as the Middle East conflict continues to escalate. Oil prices swing, governments respond, and signs of back-channel talks emerge. Yusuf Shukri joins us on set with the details.
Thank you, Razi. Now, oil prices fluctuate while most stocks edge higher, following a report that U.S. President Donald Trump shows willingness to end the Iran war, even if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Market experts warn that any U.S. ground operation or broader Iranian retaliation could push oil prices to levels not seen since July 2008, when Brent crude approaches $150 a barrel. Now, both main oil contracts slipped during Tuesday trading, though West Texas Intermediate and Brent remain well above $100 a barrel. As energy markets react, developments around the Strait of Hormuz continue to draw global attention. Iranian state media reports that a parliamentary commission approves plans to impose tolls on vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz, a critical route for global oil and gas shipments, now effectively closed due to the war. The proposal includes financial mechanisms and a rial-based toll system, alongside cooperation with Oman, reinforcing Iran's sovereign role over the strategic waterway. As pressure on energy supply intensifies, countries far from the conflict begin to feel the strain. Elsewhere, Sri Lanka announces a nearly 40% increase in electricity prices as it struggles with an energy shortage driven by the Middle East conflict. Authorities also raise fuel prices 3 times this month and implement a 4-day working week to conserve energy. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the war on Iran has surpassed the halfway mark in achieving its objectives without providing a timeline for its conclusion. The assessment signals continued military operations as Israel presses forward with its campaign, and amid these developments, global powers signal readiness to respond to market volatility. Now, the G7 economy and finance ministers say they stand ready to take all necessary measures to stabilize global energy markets disrupted by the war. The group signals coordinated action to address volatility and safeguard supply. At the same time, diplomatic channels remain active behind the scenes, with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio expressing his optimism about engaging elements within Iran's government, citing positive private signals. Washington points to internal divisions within Iran and looks to figures capable of delivering outcomes, while diplomatic efforts continue, some governments move to shield their economies. In Indonesia, its government says it will not increase fuel prices despite rising budget pressures caused by the war in the Middle East. A government statement confirms there will be no change in prices for both subsidized and non-subsidized fuel from April 1st, while urging the public not to panic over misinformation about a potential hike. Authorities also assure that fuel supply remains stable and sufficient nationwide. Although Indonesia is an oil producer, it remains a net importer and continues to heavily subsidize fuel and natural gas for domestic consumers. The government maintains its defense of the subsidy program, which amounts to $12.3 billion, or about 5% of the 2026 national budget. However, analysts warn that fiscal pressure could eventually force adjustments, as Indonesia is legally required to keep its deficit below 3% of gross domestic product. Meanwhile, U.S.-Israeli strikes damage a Shia Muslim mosque and religious site in northwest Iran, adding to a growing list of cultural locations affected by the war. State media reports that the Grand Husseiniya in the city of Zanjan, a hall used for Shia gatherings and mourning ceremonies, sustains damage following a morning attack. Parts of the structure, including sections of the dome and minarets, are affected. According to the United Nations, at least 4 of Iran's 29 UNESCO-listed sites have been damaged since the conflict began. As the situation on the ground evolves, markets continue to respond to every signal. Oil prices slip and stocks trade mixed as investors weigh reports that Donald Trump is willing to end the Iran war even if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, while also signaling possible strikes on Iran's energy infrastructure if no deal is reached. Reports indicate the U.S. administration concludes that reopening the waterway could prolong the conflict beyond a 4 to 6 week timeline, shifting focus instead to targeting Iran's missile systems and naval capabilities before pursuing diplomatic pressure. U.S. fuel prices rise above an average of $4 per gallon for the first time since 2022, increasing pressure on Washington to act to stabilize crude markets. Equity markets open stronger and oil initially falls, but early optimism fades amid concerns over mixed signals from the White House. The developments come as the U.S. president also warns of potential strikes on key Iranian oil export facilities and desalination plants, while indicating that diplomatic efforts continue to make progress. Now that is all from me. Back to you, Razi, for the rest of the report.
Thanks, Yusuf. In other news, the future of Strait of Hormuz must be decided collectively by regional states and international partners after security is restored, as the waterway remains closed. Qatar Foreign Ministry spokesperson Majid Al-Ansari says no single party can decide the fate of the strait since it is shared by all countries in the region. He also warns against attacks on civilian infrastructure, saying Gulf states rely heavily on desalination for drinking water, and as such strikes threaten lives across the region.
In a media conference, Majid states how crucial infrastructure such as the desalination facility is to the region. This is due to the scarcity of drinking and natural water. Majid also spoke up against attacks that target energy facilities, which could potentially disrupt the lives of those who are not part of the war.
4 people were injured in Dubai on Monday after falling shrapnel for an aerial interception struck several residential homes in the southern part of the city. Loud blasts were heard across Dubai shortly after 11 a.m. local time, with officials confirming that the sounds were caused by successful air defense interception operations. Emergency response teams have been deployed to the affected areas, urging residents to exercise caution and avoid approaching the sites. Dubai police advised the public not to approach, touch, or photograph any fallen debris. Authorities also urge residents to remain calm, follow official government channels for updates, and refrain from sharing unverified information or videos on social media. Back in Malaysia, a young girl previously not listed as a witness gave testimony today at the inquest into the death of Form 1 student Zara Khairina Mahathir at the coroner's court in Kota Kinabalu. Shahlan Jufri, the lawyer representing Zara Khairina's mother, said the 65th child witness, a senior student at Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Agama Tun Dato Mustafa Papar, represented a new account and chronology of the incident involving the teenager on July 16th last year before coroner Amir Shah Amir Hassan. The child witness mentioned several students and recounted what happened on the night of the incident to her mother in general, 2 or 3 months after it occurred. Shahlan said the witness came forward after revealing her account on the night of the incident before Zara Khairina was found unconscious in a dormitory to her mother. Based on the witness's account, it was only this year that she provided detailed testimony to the police. The child's testimony, he says, is not complete yet and will continue tomorrow. Meanwhile, lawyer Joanne Goh, who is representing a child involved in the bullying case of Zara Khairina, said the child witness, believed to be the last person with Zara Khairina, revealed her account of the night before the tragic incident during Ramadan this year. Sharing the witness's statement, John said the witness saw Zara Khairina pacing near the dormitory toilets, greeted her, and spoke with her for about 10 minutes. 2.1 million hectares of Sarawak's land has been gazetted as totally protected areas or TPA, surpassing the original 1 million hectare mark. Of the total, 1.2 million are located in Sarawak's water bodies, with the remainder comprising terrestrial forests. Deputy Premier Dato' Amar Awang Tengah Ali Hassan states that permanent forest estates have also expanded to nearly 4 million hectares, following the recent addition of Data Julan and Sungai Tuto.
This surge in protection comes as the state's timber industry posts robust economic numbers. In 2025, timber exports reached a valuation of 2.5 billion ringgit, while imports remain low at just 245 million.
Dari segi nilai ekspor untuk produk kayu pada tahun lepas ia mana itu jana lah kita cuma mencatatkan value export value kita untuk timber products dalam lebih kurang 2.5 billion dan import kita juga membenarkan beberapa syarikat untuk mengimport certain species so that they can add value to their products. Jadi nilai import lebih kurang dalam 245 million.
Looking ahead, the Deputy Premier says a scientific expedition seminar is slated for June aimed at further exploring the biodiversity of the Sabal and Simunjan regions.
Sarawak is digging in, reaffirming that 8 massive bridge projects remain on track for completion this year despite global economic shocks. Deputy Premier Dato' Amar Douglas Uga Ambas says the state is insulating its infrastructure timeline from rising material costs and volatility in West Asia. While acknowledging potential hitches, the Deputy Premier insists the construction schedule remains secure.
Speaking in Kuching today, Uga assures the state is rigorously monitoring global supply chains to mitigate external risk. The responsibility includes reassessing procurement programs to ensure contractors are prepared for market fluctuations.
BCCK2, I went there immediately, baru-baru ini, untuk discuss with them on the purchasing program bermaterial, mana dia dapat material dan sebagainya, kerana kita nak menentukan perancangan mereka akan mengambil kira apa yang berlaku.
The 8 projects nearing the finish line include the Sejingkat, Batang Saribas 1, Muara Lasa and the second Sungai Limbang Bridge. The list also features the Kemena, Sebau, Batang Lingga and Batang Igan bridges, along with the highly anticipated Batang Lupar 1. That project is set to become the longest river crossing in Malaysia. Overall, the Sarawak government is currently funding 20 separate bridge projects with investments in the billions.
Tapi bagi 20 jambatan tu 100% duit dari Sarawak. It's about almost 8 billion.
And that's it for TVS Nightline. Thank you for watching and have a good night.